Okay. Hello, everyone. Um, I think I'm not the only one that was surprised. However, considering the fact that I was unaware that Wale dropped a new album, kind of amazes me because I do listen. I like listening to Wale's music when it comes out. Wasn't huge of a fan of his last previous album, but he released an album, and it's weird because Wale is a very talented artist. No matter if it's rap, no matter if it's R&B, right? However, he won't make music that will chart. Like he won't. His album won't go like number one in all the and his album will not go number one or album of the year, or it won't do that. He won't get the accolades or his flowers of the music that he makes. However, he is very talented. He is very talented. Now, all of the stuff that he put, all of his personal comments and tweets aside, and his rants aside, we're really gonna talk about his music by himself, right? Talk about Wale's new single by himself. No, nothing attached to it, just the music and what he says in the music. And I think it's Wale being very creative on this album is totally worth it. And I think that is what makes this album as good as it is because it is his newest current album that just dropped Friday. And I'm really gonna go for the newer songs that make the album come together because I think I've done a review on the single on Angle Angels with Chris Brown, which is also a feature on his album. He has Cole, that is a feature on his album, but the song has already been released. So I figured, why do that? Because it's Wale, but Wale has done many. A lot of these songs were already on, like released as singles, and no one could figure out why. And looking at these singles, we weren't able to tell anything from these. However, with this album, we have more features, and we'll get into more features. The singles after I work for my songs, we'll really get into these. We'll really just get into this album. Okay, so Folarin, it's album. Folarin 2 is the name of Wale's album. And as I said, these features are not what you expect when you associate yourself with Wale, right? And I think this was a very interesting album, but I do want to give credit where credit is due because this is something Rose told Wale to do. Oh wow, told Wale to do. Stay to your strengths and do it. However, in this album, you can see him dabble in new material and also just dabble with the way he does his music, and it's a more of experimental um, music that we get from this album. And I think this track list kind of sums it up, not completely, but it kind of sums it up. You have J. Cole, right? You have Rick Ross, right? Jamie Foxx, Little Chris of T.O.B. I've never heard of T.O.B. Maxo. He sampled something from Boys and Men. And then Clemens. Can't say, I don't want to say it's Aunt Clemens. Um, and he's good vocally, right? So we have a we have 3-4 people vocally that are great, like Jamie Foxx, Clemens, Boys and Men. Vocally, they're great, and then we have like these rappers, like straight bar rappers that bring something lyrical to the table that Wale might not necessarily bring. That's J. Cole, Rick Ross, right? And then you have like the club mixes, the party mixes. You got that Chris Brown effect to it, right? So, what did I expect going into this album? So I heard Angels, wasn't impressed by Angels. Poke It Out, thought it was gonna be a club mix, right? So I thought both of the singles before were gonna be club mixes. So this album, listening to it, thought it was gonna be a club mix, but probably with the rest of the world, I was wrong. right? Because this isn't anything you expected from Wale. Wale, the first song is called New Balance. It shows Wale, and he mentions a lot of different things that you don't expect Wale to talk about. Some things you do, some things you don't, and he talks about it in a way which is interesting. He says that he's back now, right? Like he took a break, he made the music and came back. And if you took a break between each songs, that's great, you know. I think this formula will work for Wale, and this could be his comeback, right? So that's all great. And then he brings up this Rashad woman. She played in Black Panther, but she's known for Ruth Lucas on the Cosby Show. She's played in Good Deeds. This woman is very phenomenal. So he says that she's a lucky woman because the roles she's played are phenomenal. She's almost like the mother of. She's always the mother. Like she brings the mother character to life. So I'm guessing that's why he says she's a lucky woman because all of her roles are always great. All the movies are always great. And you might not know any of the Good Deed movies. Black Panther. Well, Black Panther you might not know. The Cosby Show you might not know. Romantically, I think the movie that is Just Right, which she is a lucky woman for all of these roles that she plays in because they all turn out good. The movies turn out great. The cast turns out great. So that is something that's very phenomenal and rare for a lot of people to do. And it's weird because he also talks about he almost wants to be able to call himself, I'm saying this because I don't think there are a lot of people that don't think Wale is in the GOAT category, right? Like, and he has a reason why he thinks that, right? But I think he realizes that he will never be the GOAT status, the GOAT pinnacle of rap or R&B, right? Like it's gonna be hard for him to move. However, let me say this. However, the song Tiffany Shoes, right? Like the song Tiffany Shoes is probably one of the best Wale songs I have heard in a while, right? Like it's not Sue Me, but it's there, right? It's not Ambition, but it's there, right? He speaks on his legacy, right? And I think this is what I'm saying. Like Wale will never probably be GOAT status to some people or a lot of people. I mean personally, Wale sometimes he misses, sometimes he's there. But he says his legacy might not be. He says that his legacy might not be revenue good. Like he probably didn't make a lot of money off his albums or anything, which I can understand. But I think, and I think this goes without being said because he mentions it. But in 2009, do anybody remember he did Ambition? He did something with MMG, with Maybach Music. He did so many projects. I think he was on a Meek Mill project. He was on so many projects in 2019, in 2009, excuse me, 2009, that he says he put so many people on in 2009, but he probably, and it's so weird. It's extremely weird to think about. Like when we think of people that put people on in 2009, you got Wayne, you got Drake, but a lot of people do leave out Wale, and I think that's true. Nobody really brings up Wale when they talk about 2009. And he also says, he also mentions Breonna Taylor, which, condolences to the family and friends. But he mentions Breonna Taylor, which isn't out of the norm for Wale. He always tries to make a statement, and he really does right what he supports about. So that's not out the normal for Wale, but condolences to the family. The next song is called Light Years, featuring Rick Ross. Now, this song is interesting to me the way it is laid out. And I think it's because they both have great verses, great lyrics, and Wale carries this chorus, like it's a great chorus. But when Wale gives one chorus, Rose begins to speak, and and they match so well together. But also, I like how Wale is giving Rick Ross his flowers, but also mentioning the group, right? Because he says the double M's ro- controlled the deck was running for a decade. Now they're legends of the decade, right? So, me personally, I think he's personally saying Maybach, right? Maybach music, like they had Meek Mill, Amorion, they had everybody in MMG. So when he says double M's, he say double M, I'm thinking Maybach music, a multimillionaire. Like it's so funny the way he puts this together, the scheme he puts together. He also he also thinks, because I know a lot of artists have done this, but he says he's not like, he mentions in another song that he's not like the industry artist. He said that he asked Rose to borrow some of his car so he could pick up women, I guess, from clubs or events. He might even dates that he went on, right? Because Wale doesn't necessarily doesn't really put all of his information out on social media. Doesn't really get into beefs, so we don't really get to learn a lot about Wale. And I think that's a very interesting detail that I think is very, which is fun to me, which is great. And now Wale makes it very sentimental and gives his flowers and gives flowers. Rick Ross for this feature, it's hard to match Rick Ross when Rick Ross is in his bag. Rick Ross was in his entire bag because he talks about the hustler spirit and just and it's just, and I think that's the great thing about Rose. You can see Rose is humble, but he also speaks from a hustler spirit when he raps. Where he just kind of says, where he just it's so weird. He talks about his nightmares. He also talks about being able to see his son grow up, which that is great. I think that is something that a lot of people would enjoy, but a lot of people are not. They just don't want to do it, which is sad. But I'm happy Rose expressed his feelings about that because that seems to be a topic in today's society. But it's so weird because when they come together, it's hard. Like it's a very hard thing to go have Rick Ross as a feature and live up to that feature, right? So when he does it, he lives up to the feature, and the feature just cruises, and Rick Ross cruises, no like crazy beat changes, and it's there. Like this is what I wanted to know Wale out. He could do R&B, he could do rap, but I think rap, some of it, put you up there with some rappers, you got it. Another song he's just in this other song he's just kind of talking about he just asking who you trust and stuff like that, which is a very powerful, but it's very short lived because it's like a minute, like a minute and some change along, which is crazy to me because these songs don't feel that way. The other song that is, I said this song is short. It's like a minute and 49 seconds. It's short, and he uses a Jamie Foxx sample from a TV show. I think it's from one of like the TV shows or a comedy sketch when he's playing the piano. He snips it right and uses it as a sample throughout the whole beat. And I think it's from Jamie Foxx's earliest performance, like early 2000 performances when he used to do it. And I expected anything with a Jamie Foxx feature. I expect to be R&B, but that's not the case when Wale did it. Wale just he kind of like harmonized. He was just like, well, it didn't disappoint. He was just saying, well, you don't love me no more. People in your ear never liked me, so that's probably why we're not together no more. Which is, probably true for a lot of people. And if you got that kind of person in your ear, I'm nine out of 10 either they're jealous or maybe they see something that you don't see. But he says, I hope you have like expensive stuff in your ear or expensive things. Um, he says, well, I was happy to get a chance to love you. I hate chasing you, but it's time to let you go. Is how he ends it, and it's so like I would hate to say this is like a love song, but it's kind of like a love song or a forgiveness song when you're dealing with something or just a breakup or something where you're dealing with emotions like this is just great. And then next on Caramel, where he just kind of finishes up and says he has a bunch of goals that he tries to finish in a week. He says, but you never know a person until lawyers are involved. Like, people could be nice on the surface, but when lawyers get involved, they get greedy or something like that. And I think that's what he means, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's people act a lot of different when they losing paper, when they losing money. And he says the Superwoman is special, which is great. Um, he says extra special featuring. The next song is extra special, which is ironic because after Caramel he says special. This artist is called. Come on, I don't think I'm spelling. I don't think I'm saying it right. But the song is called Extra Special, and the feature that he has on here, this guy can sing. He fills like the chorus or the backtrack, and he fills the song with this chorus that is so inspirational, but also kind of like, hey, yeah, you got me to open up and stuff like that, which is great. Wale, and I think this is not as important, but he just says some people only want attention when it comes with the money, and I think that is true. Like some people, when it's not involving their money, they don't really care. But when it affects their money, they care, or they don't want to talk to you. But when you down, they don't really care for you. But when you got the money, they're like, yo, hey, how you doing? Or you got the cars, hey, yo, what you doing? Like, hey, And I think that's kind of sad. But when it comes to wealth, a lot of people do like that, which the song is amazing. I'm not gonna lie and say the song is bad. It's great. It's an amazing song. However, it does have some sad truths to it. Okay. The second song, but my last song will be the last song he talks about is name rings bells, which is kind of Wale saying he basically supports everybody, and the guys around him have heavy chains. And he says his first magazine cover, he wore all Supreme, which is interesting for a magazine cover because you see suits or you see like GQ, you see suits. It's different, but it does stand out. So it's always great. But he also speaks about his flowers, which I think is back to him thinking he deserves his flowers for the stuff he's done in the industry, like putting people on and stuff like that. But people won't give him his flowers because they don't think he's a great or a good artist, or people think he's a bad artist, or people think he's a mid artist. So he feels like his value in rap or R&B is higher than what it should be, and he puts out great music. But as I said, Wale Wale is great at music. He does what he needs to do. He's great R&B wise. He's great rap wise. Has he put out a classic album? Possibly not yet. But I think with like this album, this body of work, this could be a classic album, a masterpiece of or even just an example of how well Wale can spit, rap, and like do the R&B vocally and carry a chorus. So that's why I'm giving the song a 9.2 out of 10. Now it won't be granted this won't be like the number one album of the year, or this won't be like an album that charts number one for like 10 weeks straight. But this is probably an album where somebody's gonna look back on this and be like, you know what, this is very catchy. Or I'm not gonna, when this plays, I'm probably not gonna skip it, but it's there, right? And I think I don't know if his idea was, hey, if I go get Cole, if I go get Rose, if I go get Chris Brown, a lot of people will come and listen to my album because I have these features on there of big artists and smaller artists, and many people will listen to it. If that's his idea, that's great, but I don't think marketing-wise that's the best way to do it because they've all released projects this year. Besides Rose and Chris Brown, they've been on tons of different projects, and I think this is great. But I think this was probably the better Wale project I've heard from him in a while. So we'll just see how the masses end up liking this album, but I give this a 9 out of 10. Probably one of Wale's best albums.